and 143 picks came and went before you heard his name. Don't talk to me about football.
Shedeur Sanders was passed on 143 times before the Cleveland Browns finally picked him in the 5th round. But the real reason behind the hate, it's never really been about football. The tension runs deeper, and now NFL players are opening up about what's really been bothering them. Let's break it down. The draft slide, what actually happened. Shedeur Sanders entered the 2025 NFL Draft as a consensus top 3 quarterback prospect. Mel Kiper Jr. had him as the best quarterback in the class. Mock drafts had him going in the top 10. Some had him going top 5. Then the draft happened. Round 1 passed. His name was not called. Round 2 passed. Still nothing. Round 3, the Cleveland Browns used their pick on Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback from Oregon, not Shedeur Sanders. Round 4 passed without his name. It was not until pick 144, the 5th round, that the Browns traded up with the Seattle Seahawks to finally select him. 143 picks came and went before Shedeur Sanders heard his name. The quarterbacks who went ahead of him tell the story clearly. Cam Ward went 1st overall to Tennessee. The Giants moved up to 25 to take Jackson Dart. Tyler Show went 40th to the Saints. Jalen Milroe went 92nd to Seattle. Dillon Gabriel went 94th to Cleveland. Then, and only then, did the Browns come back around to take Shedeur at 144.
Cam Ward went number 1 overall to Tennessee. Then the Giants picked Jackson Dart with the 25th overall pick.
Shedeur's draft position was not a football decision by most accounts. As Browns GM Andrew Berry put it after the pick,
we felt like he was a good solid prospect at the most important position. We felt like it got to a point where he was probably mispriced, relative to the draft.
The word mispriced is doing a lot of work in that sentence. A quarterback considered a top 3 talent in the class does not fall to pick 144 because of football. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam made it even more telling. When asked about the pick, he said he would not have expected it the night before.
If you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening.
Then Haslam added something that immediately raised eyebrows.
We had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation.
2 separate meetings. A GM who looked visibly unmoved when the pick was made. An owner who felt the need to clarify, on record, that it was Andrew Berry's call, not his.
At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur.
The optics drew immediate commentary across NFL media. On Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio pointed out what Haslam was really revealing by being that candid. If an owner is present in 2 meetings on draft day about a single pick, and that owner openly admits he would not have expected the pick to happen, the idea that it was purely the GM's independent decision becomes harder to accept. Stephen A. Smith, on a special edition of his YouTube show, did not hold back.
Clearly, it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else.
He went further, pointing to the sheer volume of teams that passed.
Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft?
Tom Brady, who was drafted 199th overall himself, texted Shedeur directly after the slide.
I actually texted Shedeur because I know him very well. And I said, dude, whatever happens, wherever you go, that's your first day. Day 2 matters more than the draft.
Brady framed it as motivation. But what he was really acknowledging was that what happened to Shedeur in that draft room was not normal. A player projected as a top 3 quarterback does not fall 5 rounds without a reason. And the reasons, as they came out over the weeks and months that followed, were less about arm strength and more about something else entirely. The interview process, where it all started to unravel. The first documented crack in Shedeur Sanders' draft stock came not from game film, but from a conference room. In the spring of 2025, during the NFL's pre-draft evaluation period, Sanders sat down with teams across the league for formal interviews. These are the sessions where quarterbacks answer film questions, walk through installs, and demonstrate that they can handle the culture of an NFL coaching staff. For most quarterbacks in the top 10, these are formalities. For Shedeur, they became the story. The most widely reported incident involved New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll. According to Todd McShay of The Ringer, the Giants presented Sanders with a standard playbook install package, a test that NFL teams commonly use to gauge a quarterback's preparation and attention to detail. The package contained planted errors, deliberately placed by the staff to see if Sanders would catch them. He did not catch them. When Daboll's staff called him out on it, Sanders reacted with visible frustration. He was, according to Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, pissed that they had done that to him. McShay described the exchange exchanged directly, as reported across multiple outlets. Shedeur didn't have a great interview with Brian Daboll in a private visit. An install package came in. Preparation wasn't there for it. Got called out on it. Didn't like that. Brian didn't appreciate him not liking it. The Giants had invested significant scouting resources into Sanders throughout his final college season. They had the 3rd overall pick. By most projections, Sanders was in play for that spot. But after this meeting, the Giants moved on entirely, using their pick to move up and take Jackson Dart instead.
As reportedly, he went into a meeting with Brian Daboll, and then they were testing him on some stuff, and they felt like Shedeur was unprepared. There was an install package where Brian Daboll, so rumor has it, according to Todd McShay of The Ringer, that is the source, that the Giants essentially knew that they were going to go with Jackson Dart over Shedeur in that moment.
When reporters asked Daboll directly about the meeting, he sidestepped the question, neither confirming nor denying the reports, stating only that the Giants had good meetings with all the guys. The fact that he did not deny it allowed the story to stand. The Giants' visit was not an isolated incident. NFL media's Tom Pelissero reported anonymous quotes from league personnel that were far more pointed. A longtime NFL assistant coach described his formal sit-down with Sanders as the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. The same coach listed specific observations. Sanders came across as entitled, showed poor body language, blamed teammates for negative plays, and failed to demonstrate the expected engagement. The coach ended the critique by saying, "But the biggest thing is, he's not that good." A separate longtime AFC executive told the same outlet, "It didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. He makes you feel small." CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones added another layer, reporting that Sanders appeared to have sandbagged certain interviews with teams he was not interested in playing for, deliberately giving less than full effort in those sessions. The strategy, if it was one, rubbed evaluators the wrong way. Teams do not appreciate a prospect deciding which organizations deserve his full attention before a snap has been taken. In at least one session, when shown a clip of an interception from his college tape, Sanders reportedly responded with a version of, "If you don't like what you see, don't draft me." That is a line that reads well on social media. In an NFL draft room, it reads as a red flag. Sanders also repeatedly told teams that he had no trust fund, a comment intended to establish his hunger and self-made identity, but interpreted by many evaluators as unnecessary and off-topic in a professional evaluation setting. The cumulative effect of these interactions, the Giants meeting, the anonymous coach's assessment, the selective effort in certain sessions, created a consistent picture across multiple teams, not of a player who could not play, but of a player some teams were not sure they could coach. On-field concerns, what the film said. While the interview process dominated the pre-draft narrative, there were genuine football questions being asked in parallel. The tape had things that NFL evaluators flagged, and those flags gave teams cover to pass. The most visible issue surfaced during Shedeur's Colorado Pro Day in early April 2025. New York Jets safety Andre Sisco posted a video clip on social media showing Sanders tapping the football with his non-throwing hand before releasing it, a habit that had been present throughout his college career, but became a focal point once film study intensified at the pro level. Sisco's caption was direct. He wrote that Sanders better stop patting that ball, implying the motion created a visual tell that defensive backs could time to break on routes early. The comment sparked immediate pushback from other active players. Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton argued that if defensive backs were that good at reading ball pats, they would all have 8 or more interceptions per season. Dallas Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons landed on the other side, noting that a pat on the ball can be the difference between a sack, a throwaway, or a completion. On Pro Football Talk, analyst Chris Sims ultimately called the habit a non-issue, pointing to successful NFL quarterbacks who had similar pre-throw motions without it costing them. But one NFC evaluator told Yahoo Sports that Sanders patted the ball on almost every throw, making it a consistent tell that could be exploited, as defensive timing windows in the NFL are significantly tighter than in college. The patting habit was only the surface of the on-field discussion. Deeper in the tape, scouts identified something more systemic. Merrill Hoga, a former Pittsburgh Steelers running back and longtime NFL analyst, delivered one of the most detailed pre-draft breakdowns of what the film actually showed.
It's very similar to the way it was in college. Very good quarterback, very good with simple looks, but struggles when you cloud up things and you change the look on him. And the best way to show you that is we'll show you some simple plays. We'll start off with 2 of them.
Hoga used specific game film from Sanders' time with the Browns to show what this looked like in practice. On plays where defenses held their coverage and did not disguise their looks, Sanders processed quickly and delivered.
When they snap the ball, as we snap the ball, you'll see that they don't change their coverage. It's pretty simple. You know it right off the bat. Now, Judy does a great job at the bottom of the screen.
But the moment pressure arrived or coverage rotated post-snap, the problems appeared.
The defender's going to get into the backfield and pressure him. When that happens, now he has to move and make a throw. This is where he is not very accurate. He's better when they design runs versus when he has to run and throw.
He continued the breakdown.
The 49ers are giving you like everybody's coming. Now, at the snap, they don't come. And this is where you see his real problem. As they go back into zone coverage, he was looking at the go route. Now, the go route's not open, but he missed the out route, which was wide open. He misses the drag, which is wide open.
Hoga then identified what he considered the blueprint for defending Sanders at the NFL level.
So in this matchup, the key is to pick the right downs and distances to confuse and change those coverage so he's uncertain, and then you'll have your most success against him.
Beyond the processing concerns, multiple scouting reports flagged Sanders' tendency to hold the ball too long in the pocket. The anonymous NFL assistant coach, quoted by Tom Pelissero, had a pointed way of saying it. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. PFF scouting reports noted that his average time to throw was among the slower marks in the quarterback class, forcing him to rely heavily on anticipation and rhythm throws rather than reacting to what defenses showed him. When those anticipatory windows closed, the result was frequently a late throw or a scramble that invited contact. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein captured the overall profile cleanly, praising Sanders' pocket poise and accuracy when throwing on time and on platform, but warning that he will pass on profits and look for the big play too often, leading to undisciplined pocket drops and self-created pressure. Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com offered one of the more balanced assessments, noting outstanding touch, accuracy, and toughness, but pointing to the absence of elite size, arm strength, or athleticism, and concluding that Sanders' best NFL fit would be in a timing and placement system rather than one built around off-schedule heroics or designed runs. The football concerns were real. They were also, by most accounts, coachable, but in a draft room, coachable concerns layered on top of interview room concerns layered on top of everything surrounding the Sanders family name became a combination that too many teams decided they did not want to navigate. The media wars, Rex Ryan, Tony Grossi, and everyone else. Once Shedeur Sanders landed in Cleveland, the conflict moved from draft rooms to television sets, and the most public voices in NFL media made sure his every move stayed in the headlines. The first major on-air salvo came from Rex Ryan, the former head coach of the Jets and Bills, and a regular ESPN analyst. In late September 2025, with Sanders listed third on the Browns' depth chart, Ryan appeared on ESPN's Get Up and did not hold back.
With this kid talks, he runs his mouth like I could be a starting quarterback with his arms crossed like this. Get your ass in the front row and study and do all that. If I know, the whole league knows. Quit being an embarrassment that way. You got the talent to be the quarterback you should be.
Ryan's criticism was framed around the idea that a rookie in Sanders' position, third on the depth chart, not yet having taken a regular season snap, had no business vocalizing confidence about being a starter. The commentary spread immediately across NFL media and became the dominant story of that week. Sanders' response was one of the more talked about moments of his rookie year. During a post-practice media session on October 1st, 2025, Sanders conducted what became known as a silent interview, mouthing answers to reporters without making a sound. It was later confirmed to be a direct, lighthearted response to Ryan's comments about him running his mouth, no profanity, no escalation, just a very pointed joke delivered without saying a word. The reaction drew a response from Sanders' mother, who publicly called Ryan evil in response to the tone of his criticism. The broader commentary on Ryan's remarks expanded on his ESPN comments. A second segment from around the same time dug further into what Ryan's words really meant, and who else in the league was saying the same thing privately.
He said, if I know other coaches around the league are talking about it, you're lazy, you're not a leader, you're not at the front of the meeting room, soaking up everything you can, you're whining and complaining that you're not the starting quarterback,
Whether that characterization was accurate is a separate question. What it established is that Ryan's view that Sanders was not conducting himself the way a player in his position should was not unique to him. It was, by his own account, shared by people inside NFL buildings. The second major media clash came on the field, not on television. Following Sanders' first preseason start on August 8, 2025, a 30-10 Browns win over the Carolina Panthers, in which he threw for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns, Sanders sought out ESPN Cleveland's Tony Grossi immediately after the game. Grossi had been a persistent critic throughout training camp, questioning Sanders' readiness, his arm soreness, and his rep count. Sanders walked directly to Grossi after the game and said what was on his mind, calmly, without raising his voice.
Tony, I be hoping you got something positive to say about me. You always say negative stuff about me. And I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. No. I ain't seen nothing positive that you ever said.
The exchange was caught on video and circulated immediately. Grossi responded in his own post-game coverage, acknowledging the confrontation but maintaining his analytical stance. The pattern across all of these media clashes was consistent. Sanders was targeted publicly, he responded without escalating, and the story became as much about the critics as about him. In December 2025, when a reporter asked Sanders directly whether head coach Kevin Stefanski was sabotaging his development, Sanders shut it down immediately. "So you just want to start trouble, huh?" He then defended Stefanski on the record and refused to engage with the premise. That response was widely praised, but the fact that a reporter thought to ask the question in the first place says something about the environment Sanders was navigating every single week. The Deion factor, how his father's name followed him into every room. No conversation about why NFL teams, coaches, and media figures turned on Shedeur Sanders is complete without addressing the presence of Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, Pro Football Hall of Famer, two-sport athlete, and head coach at Colorado, is one of the most recognizable figures in American sports. He is also Shedeur's father, his college coach, and by most accounts, his primary advisor throughout the draft process. And his presence, by all documented evidence, cost his son. Stephen A. Smith said what many were thinking, in direct terms.
A lot of this was about primetime Deion Sanders. You can say whatever you want to the audience out there, to these idiotic trolls all over social media talking about, Shedeur Sanders wasn't that great or whatever. There is no one, I repeat, no one that looked at Shedeur Sanders and even had him less than the third best quarterback in the draft. And 143 picks came and went before you heard his name. Don't talk to me about football.
Louis Riddick, while stopping short of the word collusion, agreed that Deion's presence was a factor in the evaluation process.
Multiple times. Of course Deion's specter, Deion's aura, Deion's presence has something to do with this. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the process that has nothing to do with on the football field. Deion
himself had, in the months before the draft, made public statements that teams did not forget. He told media there were franchises he would not allow Shedeur to play for. He appeared on the Tamron Hall show and made it clear he expected to have a voice in the proceedings. He was openly protective, openly opinionated, and openly confident that his son would change any franchise that drafted him. To fans, this read as a father backing his son. To NFL owners, it read differently.
Deion Sanders going out publicly and stating on the record, there's a couple of teams we might not want him with, and he ain't going there if we gonna get him, if they're gonna select him.
Stephen A. summed up the owner's likely reaction in one line.
Nah, we ain't having that. This is our league.
The NFL commissioner Roger Goodell even surfaced in this conversation in a clip that circulated widely, telling Shedeur directly, "I'm worried about your pop." That is the league commissioner expressing concern about a Hall of Fame legend's involvement in his son's career before that son had thrown a single regular season pass. Deion's response to the criticism that surrounded his son was to go public and go loud. He called anonymous critiques laughable and venomous. He called out ESPN analyst Dan Orlovsky by name for what he considered biased coverage. He framed the entire process in spiritual terms, telling USA Today that when it don't make sense, it's God, and suggesting the closed doors were divine direction. After the draft, Deion appeared on ESPN's First Take in February 2026 and made a declaration that tied the entire experience together. He said the draft slide had soured him on any possibility of becoming an NFL head coach, stating, "What transpired with my son last year? Ain't no way in the world he would consider it." Cam Newton offered one of the more grounded takes on the Deion dynamic. speaking directly to the distraction question that teams had cited.
If Deion Prime Time Sanders shows up to Cleveland, Ohio, it will be a distraction.
It would be, yeah.
You don't see Joe Flacco dad is showing up.
That is true.
You don't see Dylan Gabriel dad showing up.
But to their point, even if their dad showed up, they would go unnoticed.
Newton's point was not an attack. It was an acknowledgement of reality. Deion Sanders cannot walk into a building without becoming the story. And in an NFL environment where coaching staff, ownership, and front offices are all trying to control the narrative, a presence that cannot be controlled is not welcome. What Cam Newton said next is where it gets to the core of what every evaluator, every coach, and every media critic was really saying.
A lot of people are looking at him in a way where it's like, well, what is Shedeur going to do? Oh, he threw an interception today. Man, I done heard more about Shedeur than I heard about the starting quarterback.
Shedeur Sanders was a 5th-round pick who, before taking a regular season snap, was already the most talked about player on his team, in his conference, and arguably in the entire league. The coverage of his jersey sales, his preseason reps, his depth chart position, his media availability, all of it dwarfed the coverage of every other Brown. Giants right tackle Jermaine Aluamunor put the absurdity of the Pro Bowl situation into words when Sanders was named an injury replacement via fan voting in January 2026, writing publicly that the Pro Bowl was a joke and pointing out that his own teammate Andrew Thomas, considered one of the best offensive tackles in football, had never made one. The Craig Carton Show framed the statistical reality of that Pro Bowl nod with a question that cut through all the noise.
Of the 696 quarterbacks that have played quarterback this century with at least 200 pass attempts, where do you think Shedeur Sanders ranks?
The answer, 692nd out of 696. And yet, he made the Pro Bowl. Because the league knew the same thing the critics knew, and the same thing the supporters knew. Shedeur Sanders, regardless of stats or draft position, moves culture. He sells jerseys. He gets people talking. What the NFL discovered in 2025, and what the Cleveland Browns are still navigating into 2026, is that some players are bigger than the platform they play on. And the question no team had a clean answer for, before or after the draft, was whether that is an asset or a problem. The hate was never just about football. The football gave people something to point to, but the real discomfort, in draft rooms, on television, and in post-game press conferences, was always about something harder to define and harder to dismiss. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.